Theodore. He's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do. Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Bodak, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
So we open up on Theodore pulling Barrington barge across the harbor to the oil refinery. Nice to see the little barge again after a bit. After work, Theodore wants to play his special joke with the barge, and Barrington happily agrees. This pleases Theodore, since he always felt more grown up whenever he pulled the barges. So they finish up their work, and they find a hiding place underneath Owen, where the two quietly wait for Petra to float by.
Owen, whispered Theodore, don't tell anyone we're hiding here.
Won't tell anyone, bellowed Owen. No, sirree, Bob. Just watch how quiet I'll be.
See, Owen is a very noisy oil rig. Theodore and Barrington waited with big, sly grins. And sure enough, along came Petra, the pilot boat. Petra knew that Theodore and Barrington always hid when they were finished work. It was their special joke. I wonder, said Petra out loud, where can Theodore and Barrington be? Owen, said Petra, have you seen those two?
No, sirree, Bob, hollered Owen. Oops. Oh, well, they told me to be quiet.
Well, Theodore started laughing, and soon Barrington was laughing too. And Petra looked around again, and then, surprised, they yelled. Theodore rushed out, pulling Barrington behind him. There you are, said Petra. You did surprise me.
I think it's kind of cute that Theodore, Barrington, and Petra have this special joke between them. In fact, it's even more interesting to see that a pilot boat actually has a fun side to them. Hence why I prefer Petra to Pearl. So the next day, Theodore is back moving Barrington, and the two are ready to play their special joke again. This time, however, Theodore is looking to spice things up a little bit, and the two of them find a small cove outside the harbor to hide in.
This looks like just the right size for us, said Theodore. Do you think someone will find us way out here? Said Barrington. Oh, don't worry, Barrington, replied Theodore in his most grown-up voice. Someone always finds us. Theodore carefully backed Barrington into the little cove and then squeezed in beside him. It wasn't too long before Petra came floating by, looking for Theodore and Barrington. Theodore! Barrington! She called. Where are you? Theodore, aren't you going to pull me out now when we yell surprise? Oh, not yet, whispered Theodore. It seemed the more worried and nervous Barrington got, the more brave and excited Theodore felt. Barrington? Theodore? That's strange, she frowned. They usually don't hide this long. Theodore, Petra's leaving. Theodore moved ahead to look. And sure enough, Petra was going away. Oh, someone else will come along, said Theodore. And then he rumbled his engine a little, like he was getting ready to rush out and yell surprise. But inside, he was beginning to wonder what would happen, too. He wanted Barrington to think he was really good at jokes.
Not exactly sure that's a good idea. Come on, Theodore, I thought you would know better than this. Who cares if Barrington thinks you're good at jokes? Some are funny, but not to the point where everyone is practically worried sick, which is exactly what happened when Petra told the dispatcher.
They always hide on me, and I usually find them right away, Petra was saying. It's our joke. But this time, I couldn't find them anywhere.
This is very strange, said the dispatcher.
And then he looked around as if he were hoping Theodore and Barrington would come floating by any moment. The other tugs could see that it would soon be dark.
Maybe they had an accident, said Fodak. Well, there is only one thing to do, said the dispatcher. I will have to declare them officially lost. I'll ask Constance, the Coast Guard ship, to search for them.
Everyone was very quiet after the dispatcher said that.
They knew that sending an important ship like Constance to look for Theodore and Barrington meant that this was now a very serious matter. Kodak, as you are the safety tug, said the dispatcher, please go with Constance and help her search. Proceed immediately. Kodak whistled his most serious whistle and set off to meet Constance. I hope Theodore and Barrington are all right, said Hank. All the other tugs were hoping the same thing.
I think all of us are pretty much thinking that, Hank. I mean, the fact that Constance, of all characters, has to get involved, you know they don't mess around with situations like this. But anyways, nighttime had finally come, and Theodore and Barrington were still hiding in the cove. Now, we all know Barrington is usually pretty quiet, but the barge began to get antsy.
How long do you think we'll have to hide?
Said Barrington in a very quiet voice. Not long, I think, replied Theodore.
Until tomorrow?
Asked Barrington.
Maybe.
Answered Theodore.
Theodore?
Said Barrington.
Yes, Barrington. Is tomorrow a long time?
I hope not, Barrington, said Theodore. I hope not. Both boats shivered. A cool nighttime breeze was beginning to blow.
Just then, Barrington saw something. It's a light, he said. Someone is shining a light. Listen, whispered Theodore.
Sure enough, someone was calling. Theodore! Barrington!
That's Fodak, said Theodore excitedly. He's looking for us, said Barrington.
Well, it's great that they don't have to wait forever now for someone to find them. But I'm still a little puzzled as to why Theodore even bothered carrying on the joke for this long. Did he really not think everyone would start to worry by this point? Guess not. So as we saw, Theodore and Barrington were about to play the joke on Fodak. But what happens next doesn't exactly go the way they thought.
Where have you two been? An angry voice said. Theodore and Barrington looked around, and there was Constance, the Coast Guard ship, and she was shining her biggest searchlight right at them.
Constance, said Theodore, what are you doing here? Everyone has been looking for you, said Constance. Do you know how worried we all were? We were hiding, said Barrington with a great big grin. Wasn't it a great joke? Added Theodore. A joke, said Constance, as if she couldn't believe what Theodore had said. Well, it's certainly not funny. You will take this barge to his dock and report to the dispatcher immediately. And with that, Constance floated off with Fodak. Theodore pulled Barrington to his dock. I think we're in trouble, said Theodore. Why? Said Barrington. I don't know, said Theodore miserably. This is the worst day I've ever had. Me too, said Barrington.
Well, what else is there left to say but...
Oh dear, we are in trouble.
So Theodore took Barrington home and returned to the dock where the dispatcher was waiting for him. He then tells Theodore they'll discuss the matter in the morning. And yet, Theodore still can't seem to figure out why everyone is upset with him, thus leading him to think he may never be able to work with Barrington again. Morning finally comes, and the young tongue begins to practice what he's about to say to the dispatcher.
Maybe Barrington and I hid too long?
Uh-huh, said Donald.
Is that why everyone was upset with us?
Uh-huh, said Donald.
It wasn't Barrington's fault. I'm the one who made up the joke. Do you think the dispatcher will let Barrington and me work together again?
Uh-huh, a voice said. But it wasn't Donald. Theodore slowly turned and saw that the dispatcher was looking at him.
You mean I can work with Barrington?
Theodore, said the dispatcher, the reason we were all so upset was, well, we didn't know you were only playing a joke. You were gone so long we all thought you were lost.
I guess a joke isn't funny if it makes everyone worry. But can I work with Barrington again?
Well, maybe my good friend Donald Dock has something to say about that, said the dispatcher with a smile in his voice. Uh-huh. A little later, Theodore was taking Barrington barge to the oil refinery on the other shore.
It sure is a great day, said Theodore.
The best day ever, said Barrington.
And that concludes A Joke Too Far. At one point I did have this as a favorite, but now it's knocked down to an okay. Theodore really should have known better than to have everyone worrying for that long, instead of trying to be the king of jokes to quote-unquote impress Barrington. I can't really see kids trying to mimic these actions, but then again I could be wrong, so I can at least cut them a little slack for the moral they were trying to push. Mind you, by no means am I saying it's a terrible episode, it's just a tad flawed. Obviously, our main focus centers around Theodore and Barrington, which again, I feel like Theodore's character was downgraded just a little bit. And as for Barrington, I get that he's a quiet barge, but he really should have said something instead of just tagging along for the ride. Music wasn't all that much to brag about, just calm little ditties here and there. And our set focus was mainly the cove where Theodore and Barrington hid, with other various locations in the harbor, like the Great Ocean Dock, underneath Owen, Barrington's Dock, and the oil refinery. Again, not saying it's terrible, it's just okay at the very least. Up next is Theodore and the Ice Ship.